Hi, did you miss me? I missed y'all. Happy halfway through the year, halfway through the month. I kind of barely know where I am right now because this is yet another year where I'm probably not going to be training for a marathon. So in the fall, but that I'm hoping for next year, but let's back off a little bit and talk about your fall. Vacation was amazing. I got to say it was kind of surreal. Now that I'm vaccinated, I'm told that I have the option to wear masks when I go places, and it was hard to remember to take a mask with me in most of Missouri where we were. We were in like the Ozarks where we like to go 2 weeks every summer. Next summer, I think I might be trying to get someplace with a slightly more stable internet connection. That's going to be an Airbnb requirement, I think. But looking to stay like a little bit longer because I'm like, why are we here? Whenever I come back, the thing I remember that I love the most about Denver personally is the fact that we do not have humidity. We have a lot that is not in our favor, like that whole less oxygen thing. But boy, it feels so good to not be inhaling wet, humid air. So if that is your reality on a day-to-day, man, I feel you. I sympathize with you. I do not know how you do it. I know the thing I'm going to be saying, I don't know how you do it, is what I'm going to be saying to myself every day now that I'm trying to get back into morning routines. Our nanny had a family emergency, and we're not quite sure when she's going to be back. So just, and with Violet being kicked out of preschool, that is going to make lots of things a lot more challenging. So with that, I'm trying to get back into the habit of early morning workouts, which frankly I got out of the habit of doing during, not just during COVID, but during my last pregnancy. So now with back in the same childcare crunch that I have not faced since 2015 or 2016, these early morning workouts are going to become like an all or nothing type of situation where it's either I'm going first thing in the morning or last thing at night. And I do not like working out in the evening unless it's 2 a day, and I'm not for any of that. So I tell you that to tell you this. I have no idea what that's going to look like. I have no idea how I'm going to respond to my alarm in the morning. But if you are planning on racing in the fall, and even if you're in a place where you're like, yeah, I'm good, I'm just going to do it. I want you to remember the last time you said that to me, to yourself, to the people around you. And I would like you to remember how that worked out, because we like to say to ourselves, oh, if I need to make a big change, I need a big commitment, and I'm only going to do that if I have a big goal. And the problem with that is when you have a really big goal, it's hard not to think about performance, because absolutely no one other than us in the running world does that. So it can be really hard to say, I'm just here for the party, when that party is 6.5, 7.5, 8.5 hours long. That sounds like a whole lot like more party than I think a lot of us might be ready to sign up for. But that's very much the reality for a lot of these marathons. I've said it before and I've said it again. I am not fit enough to where a 10K is going to feel fun for me at the moment, let alone a marathon. So I'm starting to sort of lock things in, hoping for next year. I'm looking for any sense of stability, but every time I start making plans, something happens with my childcare situation. So until my kids are in school, which will be next fall, God willing, I'm trying to relax my attitude, because the last thing I want to do is miss this last year with my last baby at home and resent the situation instead of embracing it, when I really, at the end of the day, have the job that's incredibly flexible, a strong, dedicated client base who I love. You guys are amazing. The ability to make this what we all need it to be without having to work traditional 9 to 5 hours. So adding pressure to perform on top of that, for me, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I probably have a lot more flexibility than you do. So if that's the case, as you start looking towards the fall, as you start looking to make a new habit, as you start really starting to think about what you need to get, I want to remind you, it is incredibly hard. Running more slowly than you want to go in any given moment is the hardest thing you'll ever do, especially in a race situation. So let's stop, assess, and really kind of take. Amy Wilson had an amazing marathon. And Karen Sutton, former client, hoping we'll see her back soon, just did an ultra with in the UK. So there are a lot of people who are doing things outside the box, feeling really good about it. Or, in Amy's case, she does a whole lot of long haul cross country skiing. She's been in terrific shape. She has not fallen anywhere near as far as I have. So I tell you that to tell you this. I'm not looking at Amy and saying, wow, well, she had a good race. I guess I better do that since I'm the coach. I'm looking realistically at my life. And I'm saying, do I have space for this right now? And the answer is honestly no. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So if you have committed to something in the fall, I know I'm starting to sound a lot like the coach that it discourages people from racing, but realistically, we have lived through a pandemic. This COVID Delta variant is pretty scary. I actually know people who have it. I got the news while I was on vacation, and it's being in a weird place now where my attorneys are telling me I have to step away from social media for a while. And I know that sounds heavy, and I know it sounds like a lot, but we just got to ride this out a little bit longer. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out my personal Facebook page or Google my full married name in my Mary Catherine Brooks Fleming, and you'll see it's a thing. But everything's going to be fine. It's just I'm in a real weird place right now. So I've handed the keys to my social media over to somebody else to sort of like oversee it and run, mostly from trolling and bullying type of perspective and security threats. But I fully expect to be like back operational, totally fine by September. Again, God willing, we shall see. So if you see me less on Facebook, and I know I haven't been as responsive as I have been in the past, but it's just been a slow process of sort of finding ways to find balance in social media. Because for someone like me, I was a super heavy social media user. Anybody who's been around since my first season of coaching with Another Mother Runner, I believe was April 2016, I was on Facebook all the time. Every time I got notifications, I responded just like this. We've had to move. That did burn me out and overwhelm me for a while. Trying to find, I think here with this setup, we've got a really great sense of balance for me. I feel like I have a lot more control. And I don't feel like I have to be, answering to pings all the time, so that means this is sustainable. But the trade-off is I'm less available. So I tell you all that to tell you this, I become a lot less available this year. But this period, Ask Away is still staying. I'm going to be sending out an email really soon reminding everyone that we are pretty much ready to go with office hours. I can plan and schedule those now really easily. And since I'm going to be less available on Facebook and whatnot, I'm planning to be much more available there for this. So hopefully I'll get to see and reconnect with a lot of you I haven't heard from in a while. And I'm really looking forward to that. So but the upside to it is I'm very rarely on Facebook. So when I do go in and I see people doing things in my feed, every once in a while it does include races. But having seen how scary this Delta variant is, my prediction for the fall hasn't changed much. I don't know. I know there's a lot of pressure to open schools. I don't know that same pressure is going to apply to large events. As you might have seen, the Tokyo Olympics is now getting rid of spectators. I have no idea if races are going to be able to hold events, spectators or not. And in a podcast that I meant to release and didn't because I forgot, I discussed it precisely this with one of our clients, the resident Dr. Dietz. We talk about that, exactly that. Even if we could control all the participants, can we control the spectators? If we can't, then we probably don't need to be doing it, and the local governments are going to shut that down. So, but I said it then, but it's more timely now. I feel like that hasn't really changed much. If anything, I do think my prediction for we're not really going to have big races the way that we need them kind of stands. I think a lot of these are going to convert to virtual options with a guaranteed admission the following year. So with that in mind, that is my prediction. So I tell you that to tell you this. If you're in a place right now where you're like, I'm having real trouble getting my act together because it's hot, because it's humid, because we've got inversions going on, because the air is really gross, it's just hotter than it's ever been and less pleasant than it's ever been, I want you to know that this is the year to fail. This is the year you've heard me talk about planning to fail or preparing to fail as someone who lives with ADHD. This is the year to kind of embrace that for yourself. Yeah, I'm going to plan to run a marathon, but you know what? The odds are pretty good it's going to become a virtual one anyway. So I'm going to relax everything that I'm expecting, all the pressure that I'm putting on myself. I'm going to remind myself that, you know what? I don't have to do this. And if I choose to do it, it's going to be a very self-driven activity. So there's that. Because, where we are, you should have started training already if you were going to be really serious about a fall race. So there we are. I do not plan to race in the fall. Next fall, maybe. I'm hoping to be able to work towards that. But again, we'll see. But we're going to talk about a lot of that with some of the questions. We're going to talk about how to incorporate Peloton into your routine, how to incorporate boot camps and whatnot into your routine, though I do not know who in their right mind would do boot camps. Oh my God, that sounds so hard. I love you all. I do. But oh my God, boot camp. Ugh, it's so hard. Nakia, I know it's not just you because someone else is asking this, but that's hard. So With that, here we go. Last note is on performance enhancers. If you would have seen recent about Sha'Carri Richardson being denied entry to the Olympics because of consumption, I did get some questions in DMs about, does marijuana enhance performance? And the answer is, it can, but not really for sprinting and maximum energy and power generation. What it can do is relax a person who might be who might be really anxious, who might be really stressed. I mean, these events are incredible amounts of pressure. When you look at who wins the 100-meter, 200-meter dash, it's fractions of a second between them. The whole event is over in like 5, 10, 15 seconds, right, for any of the sprints. So you might need, considering how short it is and how focused you have to be, yeah, sure, I can absolutely understand why at some point someone would have said, let's ban this. I can not understand why it is still banned, though, when it's becoming legal in other states, when THC is becoming so common, it's becoming so normalized that you can buy it in freaking coffee now. And again, most of these are companies that are mostly owned by white people. So when I tell you that, to underscore that, if you've heard me talk in the past about my own THC use when I was healing from the wake of HRH the baby violet, and I use THC a lot, it only works with a modicum of THC to it. So CBT doesn't do very much on its own. You can buy it on Amazon. But what unlocks it is that ratio of THC to CBD together. So even the smallest amount is going to be illegal to sell online. I happen to live near an amazing shop. I've told the story before about how I had to find the dose because I'm such a lightweight and I don't even drink a whole lot. And let me tell you, there are two types of people in this world: those who can use marijuana and those who just shouldn't. And I'm firmly in that latter category, and I'm okay with that. But finding the amount, and my ratio was 20-1. So I would go get I would have the maximum CBT with the minimum THC is what I used, and I used it a lot. So the amount that I was using, and I did check this before the broadcast, would be enough to disqualify me from the Olympics. And that doesn't make sense because I wasn't taking enough to be high. I wasn't taking enough to be non-functional. And I wasn't really taking enough to be honestly relaxed. I didn't notice, as someone who has experienced a lot of anxiety, particularly during that period, I did not feel like that 21 ratio helped me. I'm taking antidepressants now. I was not taking antidepressants. I was not taking Lexapro back then. I can't compare the two at all. So my reason for even discussing this is to say, I've seen a lot of jokes about it, or maybe you've just heard too much about Black Lives Matter last year and you were rolling your eyes at this like it's a rule and she broke it. It's a rule that needs to change because THC, as someone who has benefited from it, from CBT, is amazing. It is becoming legal. It needs to be legal everywhere. This stuff is quite frankly, magic. I mean, I don't know how better to describe it. And it only works when you add a modicum of THC to it. I know that isn't what she was doing. I know that. And I don't care because this is such a powerful thing for people who do have anxiety, because it's such a powerful anti-inflammatory that can assist in the management of so many chronic anti-inflammatory conditions like celiac, like IBS, like IBD. And knowing that what unlocks it is a drug that's illegal for no good reason. I'm all for that law being changed. And I hate that it had to happen to such a talented athlete, because I do love Sha'Carri. I love watching her. I love everything about her from start to finish. She's just incredible to watch, the same way that Gwen Berry is, the same way that a lot of these Olympic athletes are. I hate the rule, but I hate the Olympics. And if you've been here for a while, you know that too. I'm happy to pull that old one out from the blog. The last time I wrote about that was 2016 in Rio, and I was rolling my eyes at the fact that, that I just didn't like the way that athletes were being treated back then, and that hasn't changed very much now. So I will not be watching the Olympics. And no shade to people who are. I know a lot of people who love the gymnastics. I'm here for that. I personally am going to have a hard time watching that this year too. It's hard for me to support the athletes in that system. If I want to watch, gymnastics, I can go on Twitter. I can go on ESPN. There are so many ways I can consume the amazing things these athletes do. I personally choose not to do it at this series of events, which is also, comes in and decimates places. Like, it didn't do a whole lot for Brazil's economy, didn't do a whole lot for Japan's economy. It has a long, the Olympics as a series of events has a long and complicated history. And as someone who studied the economics of developing nations and spent a lot of time evaluating companies in developing nations back, in my early years as a Wall Street analyst, I got to say, the impacts are mostly negative on the countries and on the people. The rules are racist and outdated. The way that athletes are treated or selectively tested is unnerving to me. And so if we can't make the playing field level, then we need to get rid of it and design a better one. And that's how I feel about that. So yay! That has nothing to do with any of this. Let's get to it. Oh, one other thing. A couple of you reached out while I was on vacation. I did not have my backup drive with me, which is where the marathon plans are. I'm going to be emailing that to everyone on the list, so you'll have it whether you want it or not tonight. Anyway, here you go. In Rebuild, I tried a Peloton tread bootcamp class, and I really enjoyed it. Oh, I don't understand you. I'm not judging you. I just don't relate. I'd like to take one a week. I'm wondering the best place to get it in. I'm thinking swap it in for the Monday or the Wednesday run. That's what I would do. You could do it on the Friday run too. To me, it sounds really hard. I would hesitate to do it on a Friday because I would want to have as much healing before the long run, if you're doing long runs, as possible. So remember, the rule of thumb is we never do 2 hard workouts back to back. We really want to kind of space them out. So if the day that's most conducive in your schedule too, there are a lot of considerations here. Like a Wednesday, if you're on a more rigid training schedule, if you're doing the long run, if you're hoping for a marathon this fall, then I would say try to do it on Wednesday, because that gives you enough time to heal from the long run, and to get and to heal from the treadmill, from the boot camp, to heal from that before your next long run. So to either heal to be ready to go again, that would be the day I think would be the ideal day to do it. But you could also stack it on top of your Wednesday run if that's something you want to do, because that would give you plenty of time to recover before the long run too. So that's what I would do. You can do it theoretically on Friday, as long as you're in a place where this isn't going to be a real shock. If I was to do a boot camp right now, it would be a fucking shock to my system. I'm telling you, I would be like, I'm going to do it on a Monday, and I will probably not move for the rest of the week. So I'm going to do it on Wednesday, since Thursday is a rest day, and I can whine like a whipped puppy and complain about how bad that was, and then be ready to go on Friday and Saturday. That is honestly like what my mindset would be if I was trying to do a boot camp. So you can do it any day that you want to do it, as long as you're taking that long run into consideration too, if the long run is on your calendar. If you're like, I'm not doing long runs, haven't been doing long runs, cool, ignore it. Do this whenever you want. Just try not to do just try to avoid doing 2 hard workouts back to back. There you go. And then let us know how it goes. I'm kind of jealous you have a Peloton tread. I'm really jealous, actually. We barely have room for the Peloton itself. And I love the tread and the tread plus. I mean, I've said for years that if you can afford it, it's a terrific indoor option. It's a really, really, really amazing ride. We just don't have space for it anywhere. So yeah, tell us about Peloton tread. Take some selfies, tag us in it. I want to see all this. Maintain says, I'm running the Hartford Marathon the second weekend in October, so I should be starting the marathon training plan for the first week in August. Will the plan be available by then? Yes, that is going around tonight. It's already ready. And I apologize that I didn't get back to you guys sooner on it. I know a couple of you emailed me. That's happening now. My bad. I'm sorry. Next question. I'm running a marathon at the beginning of October. So many people running marathons. Look at you guys. I love it. My long run so far is at 12 miles, so I'm about 2 miles behind where I want to be in my build. That's fine. How do I bridge the gap between where I am and where I want to be? This is by no means my first time building for a marathon, but I'm finding this to be the hardest physically since my first build. What gives? So part of the reason it's going to be harder is, number one, your motivation and the context of everything else that's going on in life right now. I know when I think about, and I say this as someone who's done 2 marathons a year, or did 2 marathons a year from the time I was 17 years old until I was 40 and pregnant with Violet, and that derailed everything. And my life has not gotten back on the same track since. It's not a bad track. I don't hate this track. It's just what I have done for the vast majority of my life as an adult and as a runner is not what I'm doing right now. And it's a weird place to be. So on it for most of us, either working from home, traveling less, doing less, even if you're in a place that's lifted a lot of the COVID restrictions, life's not the same. So that is a huge part of it, trying to step back into something you've done before under very different circumstances in very different situations. If this is Dan asking the question, think about the last time you trained. You probably had a big training group that you're meeting on Saturday mornings. You had a lot more ceremony around it, a lot more hoopla. You probably were not working from home and had to have a lot more discipline or a lot more restrictions around, okay, I have to go to the gym first thing in the morning at 5:30. When the alarm goes off, I have to be out the door. And that seems like a push, especially when you're in a place like New York, where everything is pushing you all the time. God, that city has a heartbeat on its own. And it's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just what it is. And anywhere else other than that, I find it can be a little bit harder to get just as motivated because I have to drive to meet the run club. I've got to plan more. Nothing is handy and everything is more work because I don't live on top of a gym like I did in New York, and I don't work next to a running trail like I did in New York. So there are a lot of things that, and if I'm not talking to Dan, I mean, hopefully some of this might be resonating with whoever it is who did ask that question. It's not about whether or not it's your first. It's about whether it's because, your muscles have memory. You're going to get back to where you need to be. You say you're 2 miles behind, I say shrug. You can be ready for a marathon and a 16-mile long run, even if you're not of elite fitness. You actually, truly, totally can. What I'm more worried about is the long run sandwich. Are your Fridays going well? Are you getting the other time on your feet, as much time on your feet? I am much more concerned with you getting 5 days a week of running in, even if you're not getting the full time on, that we're spending that time adapting your body, adapting your joints to this running thing maximally, than I am about that mile on the long run, right? So if adding time to the long run and you're like, well, I haven't been doing the Tuesday runs, let's get the Tuesday runs back in and then worry about extending the long run, because I would just say add a mile next week. So if the schedule says 14, but you've only built up to 12, do 13 and then ask yourself, could I keep going? Not should I keep going? It's different. Could I keep going? Yeah. Cool, got what you needed, and you're good to stop. Because really the purpose of the long run, and I'm going to end on this, you've kind of tapped out all of the physiological adaptations that you're going to receive from that run at around 75 minutes in. From a training muscular energy metabolism standpoint, there is a separate energy system that we tap into when we've been doing one thing continuously for 90 minutes. Whether you spend 60 seconds there or 60 minutes there, it doesn't matter as much as we think that it does. We know that those benefits exist for an hour. Beyond that, you are running more risk of injury than you are deriving benefits. So the law of diminishing returns kicks in, and that is where the parameters around the long run come from for most traditional road racing coaches. So the difference between 13, 14 miles, difference between 12 and 14 miles is less important to me for your training than the difference between getting 5 days of bouncing and physical adaptations, like the bouncing on the street that comes from, and that nice little thought, bouncing on the street that comes from jogging versus walking. That is going to be so much more important than worrying about the length of the long run. We really do tend to put too much pressure on the long run, what we need it to do. And it's a dress rehearsal. It's a practice run for hydration and fueling, for whatever you could do on the day. Like, am I going to wear these fun new Gooder Dunkin' Donuts glasses? Woo! Oh, wow. They're blue. I don't like that. I prefer the gray. I'm just making that up. I just got these and they're great. But my running sunglasses are gray, and running in gray lenses was like a game-changing thing. And now I'm so spoiled to it, I can't run in anything else. That is a good thing to know before a race day, when you show up with your glasses to go run in and match all your friends. So that's just one small example, but that's the thing that we learn in the long run, because the thing you don't mind for 30 minutes is really going to get to you at hour 3.5, 4.5. Better to find that out before the race. So I hope that answers your question. I know it's a lot more words, but it's different because it's a different time. It's not because there's something wrong with you or because you don't care enough or because you're not motivated enough. I really feel like all of that's BS that's been marketed to you to sell you courses from other kinds of coaches, life coaches. What is a life coach? Not to insult anyone who is one, but most of the life coaches who I've interacted with, I'm kind of like, do you really have your life together? I don't know. And maybe that's just because I'm judgy and I don't. There's so many ways in which I don't have my life together. So if there's a part of you that feels like you don't too, I'd say that you're exactly where you need to be. The question is really, are the decisions that you're making harming you mentally or physically? And if they're not, cool. Setting a goal and then life not working out for you to do the work required for that goal doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It means you're adulting like a boss. It means that your body's doing exactly what it's designed to do. Like, I can't get out of bed in the morning. I'm sleeping in all the time. Okay, you're tired. Listen to your body. And maybe it's a question of nourishment. Maybe it's a question of rest and hydration. It could be so many reasons that have nothing to do with you sucking. As a matter of fact, all of the reasons will have to do with you not sucking, because you don't suck. Quite the opposite. It's a harder year. I don't know what normal is going to look like, but I know it ain't coming in 2021. So if you're able to run, if you're able to get out of bed in the mornings and do it without thinking the way that I used to do, amazing. Congratulations. Let us know your secrets. I might need them too. So that's all I have to say. And here we are closing up in 30 minutes. You are coached. You are loved. Sign up for office hours. And we're all going to be winning at life. Because it's not fair that the only client I've gotten to see in person lately is Kristen Fraser, who I got to see in Columbia. I almost said Maryland. I don't know why I did that. I've not been in Maryland freaking forever. I saw her when I was driving through Missouri, and it was lovely. I still remember that ice cream. Thank you, Kristen.